The moment Emma walked into our Miami Beach kitchen that Friday morning, I knew trouble was brewing. At 17, my daughter had perfected the art of casual rebellion, but something in her eyes told me this wasn't about extending her curfew by 30 minutes. "Dad, there's this party tonight," she began, stirring her coffee with deliberate slowness. "Madison's family is hosting it on their yacht. Everyone from school will be there." Madison Hartwell. The name alone made my stomach clench. Her father owned half the waterfront properties in Biscayne Bay, and their family was notorious for parties that made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Just last month, 3 teenagers had been hospitalized after one of their exclusive gatherings. "Absolutely not," I said, setting down my newspaper with more force than necessary. "Emma, you know how I feel about those parties. Especially on a boat in the middle of the bay." The morning sun streamed through our floor-to-ceiling windows, casting golden light across Emma's face as her expression hardened. She had her mother's stubborn chin, the same one that had driven me crazy during our marriage and now continued to challenge me and our daughter. "Dad, you're being ridiculous. It's just a party. I'm 17, not 7. "It's not just a party when it's unsupervised teenagers on a yacht with unlimited access to alcohol," I countered, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "Do you have any idea what can go wrong out there?" "The currents alone." "Here we go again with your Coast Guard stories," Emma interrupted, rolling her eyes. "Dad, I get it. You used to rescue people from boats. But this isn't some disaster movie. It's Madison's birthday. 23 years with the Coast Guard had shown me enough maritime accidents to fill a dozen nightmares. Capsized boats, drowning victims, bodies that families never got to bring home. The ocean was beautiful, but it was also merciless, especially when alcohol and poor judgment entered the equation." "Emma, listen to me carefully," I said, moving closer to where she stood by the marble counter. "That yacht party isn't safe. I've seen what happens when things go wrong on the water. Please, just stay home tonight. We can order pizza, watch that movie you've been wanting to see." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Dad, you can't keep me locked up forever just because Mom isn't here to balance out your paranoia." The mention of Sarah hit like a physical blow. 6 months since the divorce was finalized, and Emma still knew exactly which buttons to push. My ex-wife had always been the voice of reason between us, the one who helped me see when my protective instincts crossed into overprotection. "This isn't about your mother," I said quietly. "This is about keeping you safe." Emma's phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen. "Madison's picking me up at 8. I already told her I'd be there." "Then untell her." "Dad, Emma, I'm serious. You're not going to that party." For a moment, we stood in silence, the tension thick between us. Outside, I could hear the familiar sounds of Miami morning traffic, the distant hum of boat engines from the marina, and the cry of seagulls overhead. It was the kind of perfect Florida day that made people forget how quickly paradise could turn dangerous. "You know what, Dad?" Emma's voice was cold now, controlled. "Ever since the divorce, you've been treating me like I'm going to disappear if you don't watch me every second. But guess what? Keeping me locked up isn't going to bring Mom back." She grabbed her backpack and headed for the door, pausing only to deliver her final shot. "I'm going to that party tonight, whether you like it or not." The front door slammed with enough force to rattle the windows, leaving me alone in the kitchen with my cold coffee and a growing sense of dread that had nothing to do with my Coast Guard experience and everything to do with being a father who might be losing his daughter. By 6 o'clock that evening, Emma still hadn't come home from school. Her phone went straight to voicemail, and my texts remained unread. I paced our living room, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon, painting the Miami skyline in shades of orange and pink that should have been beautiful but instead felt ominous. I called Madison's mother, hoping to reach someone reasonable in the Hartwell family. "Oh, Marcus," Patricia Hartwell's voice was light, dismissive. "Don't worry so much. The kids will be fine. Captain Rodriguez has been with our family for years. He knows those waters better than anyone." Mrs. Hartwell, with respect, having an experienced captain doesn't eliminate the risks. "How many kids are we talking about? Will there be any other adult supervision?" Her laugh tinkled like expensive champagne glasses. "Marcus, darling, they're practically adults themselves. Madison is 18 next week, and most of her friends are seniors. They need to learn responsibility sometime." After hanging up, I felt my anxiety ratchet up another notch. I dealt with enough wealthy families during my Coast Guard years to know that money often bred a dangerous sense of invincibility, especially when it came to the ocean. At 7:30, I drove to Emma's school, hoping to catch her before she left with Madison. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few stragglers from after-school activities heading to their cars. No sign of Emma or Madison's silver Mercedes convertible. My phone rang as I sat in my truck, debating my next move. Mr. Chen? The voice was young, nervous. This is Kayla, from Emma's class. I think you should know something. What is it? Emma asked me to call you if something happened. She made me promise. She said you'd know what to do. My blood turned to ice. Kayla, what's wrong? Where's Emma? She went to the party, but she was scared. She kept saying you were right, that something felt wrong about it. But Madison was pressuring her, and all the popular kids were going, and… Kayla, I need you to tell me exactly what Emma said. She said if you didn't hear from her by 10 tonight, I should call you and tell you they were going to anchor near Stiltsville. Do you know where that is? Stiltsville. The collection of houses built on stilts in the middle of Biscayne Bay, about 7 miles south of Miami. It was a popular party spot precisely because it was isolated, far from the mainland and any immediate help. Thank you for calling, I managed. If you hear from Emma, tell her to call me immediately. I hung up and immediately dialed the Coast Guard station where I'd spent most of my career. My former colleague, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, answered on the second ring. Marcus? What's wrong? You sound terrible. Jake, I need a favor. Emma went to a party on a yacht, and they're anchored near Stiltsville. Something's wrong. She had a friend promise to call me if I didn't hear from her by 10. Slow down. What makes you think something's wrong? I explained the conversation with Kayla, the feeling of dread that had been building all day, and Emma's apparent change of heart about the party safety. Marcus, it's only 8:15. Maybe she's just having fun and forgot to check her phone. Jake, you know me. I wouldn't call if I wasn't genuinely worried. Can you do a wellness check? Just send a boat out to make sure everything's okay? There was a pause. I can't officially authorize a search and rescue operation based on a father's worry. But I can have one of our patrol boats swing by Stiltsville during their regular rounds. If they see anything concerning, they'll investigate. Thank you. Marcus, try not to panic. 99% of the time, these things turn out to be nothing. But as I drove home through the Miami evening traffic, past the neon lights and palm trees that usually felt like home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be part of that 1%. Emma had been scared enough to arrange for Kayla to call me. My daughter, who rarely admitted to being afraid of anything, had been genuinely worried about this party. At 9:45, my phone remained silent. I stood on my balcony, looking out over Biscayne Bay, where somewhere in the darkness, my daughter might be in trouble. The water looked deceptively calm, reflecting the lights of the city like scattered diamonds, but I knew how quickly that could change. At exactly 10 o'clock, my phone rang. But it wasn't Emma. It was Jake. Marcus, you need to get down here. Now. The Coast Guard station at Miami Beach was a blur of activity when I arrived. Red and blue lights flashed across the water, and the urgent crackle of radio communications filled the night air. Jake met me at the dock, his face grim in the harsh fluorescent lighting. What happened? I demanded. The yacht sent out a distress call about 20 minutes ago. Engine failure, and they're taking on water near Stiltsville. We've got 2 cutters en route, but Marcus. He paused, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. Officially, you can't be part of this operation. You're not active duty anymore. Jake, my daughter is on that boat. I know. That's why I'm pretending I don't see you climbing into that helicopter. The flight to Stiltsville took less than 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. Below us, the dark water of Biscayne Bay stretched endlessly, broken only by the distant lights of the scattered stilt houses and the searchlight beams of our rescue boats cutting through the darkness. There, the pilot's voice crackled through my headset. 2 o'clock, about a quarter mile from the main stilt house cluster. Through the helicopter's window, I could see the yacht listing heavily to one side, its deck lights creating an eerie glow on the water's surface. Even from this height, I could tell it was in serious trouble. The bow was sitting too low, and the boat's angle suggested significant flooding. How many souls on board? I asked into my headset. 16 teenagers, plus the captain and 1 crew member, came the response from the lead cutter. Captain Rodriguez is coordinating the evacuation, but they've only got 2 life rafts, and one of them won't inflate properly. My stomach clenched. 18 people, and only 1 functioning life raft. Even if everyone could swim, the water temperature was around 72 degrees, manageable for a short time, but hypothermia would set in quickly, especially for panicking teenagers. I'm going down, I announced, already reaching for the rescue harness. Marcus, you can't, Jake's voice started. Jake, I've done this 1,000 times. And my daughter is down there. The helicopter pilot, a young woman named Santos whom I trained years earlier, gave me a sharp nod. Copy that. Deploying rescue swimmer. The descent into darkness was familiar, even after 2 years of retirement. The roar of the helicopter rotors above, the rush of wind, the moment when the ocean rose up to meet me, it was muscle memory, as natural as breathing. But this time, everything was different. This time, my own child was among the people I was trying to save. I hit the water about 50 yards from the yacht and immediately assessed the situation. The boat was listing at nearly 30 degrees now, and I could hear screaming and shouting from the deck. Several teenagers were already in the water, some clinging to life preservers, others swimming in panicked, inefficient strokes toward the single deployed life raft. Emma! I shouted as I swam toward the boat. Emma! Dad! Her voice, thin and terrified, came from somewhere near the yacht's stern. Dad, is that really you? I followed the sound and found her clinging to a life ring, her face pale with shock and cold. Madison was beside her, crying hysterically. Oh my God, Dad, you came, Emma sobbed as I reached her. The boat started tilting, and everyone was screaming, and I was so scared. I'm here, I said, pulling her close. I'm here, and we're going to get everyone out safely. The next hour was controlled chaos. Using my training and experience, I helped coordinate the evacuation with the Coast Guard cutters that had arrived on scene. We got the teenagers onto the life raft in groups, prioritizing the weakest swimmers and those showing signs of hypothermia. Emma stayed close to me throughout the rescue, helping calm the younger kids and following my instructions without question. Madison, despite her earlier bravado about the party, had become one of the most panicked, and Emma gently talked her through breathing exercises while we waited for the last cutter to reach us. Is everyone accounted for? I called out to Captain Rodriguez, who was performing a final sweep of the sinking yacht. All souls accounted for, he confirmed. We're clear to abandon ship. As we were pulled aboard the cutter, Emma grabbed my arm. Dad, I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. I should have listened. We'll talk about it later, I said, wrapping her in a Coast Guard-issued blanket. Right now, I'm just glad you're safe. But as I watched the yacht's lights disappear beneath the dark water of Biscayne Bay, I realized that this rescue had changed something fundamental between Emma and me. For the first time in months, we were on the same side again. The sun was rising over Miami Beach by the time we made it home. Emma sat curled up on our living room couch, wrapped in one of my old Coast Guard sweatshirts, holding a mug of hot chocolate that had gone cold an hour ago. The television news was covering the yacht rescue, calling it a miraculous save with no casualties, but neither of us was really watching. Dad, Emma said quietly, breaking the silence we'd maintained during the drive home. I need to tell you something. I sat down beside her, careful to leave some space. After everything that had happened, I wasn't sure where we stood with each other. I was scared about the party all day, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. When you said it wasn't safe, something in your voice. I knew you weren't just being overprotective. But I went anyway because I was angry about the divorce, and I wanted to prove that I didn't need you watching over me all the time. Emma, no, let me finish. She turned to face me, and I could see tears gathering in her eyes. When the boat started sinking, all I could think about was how stupid I'd been. How you tried to keep me safe, and I'd thrown it back in your face. I was so scared I was going to die without telling you I was sorry. My chest tightened. You don't have anything to apologize for. You're 17. You're supposed to push boundaries and make mistakes. That's how you learn. But you were right about the party. About Madison's family, about the risks. You were right about everything. I reached over and took her cold hands in mine. Emma, being right doesn't matter if it costs me my relationship with you. I've been so afraid of losing you, first to the divorce, then to your growing up, that I forgot the most important part of being your father isn't keeping you safe from everything. It's teaching you how to stay safe when I'm not there. She leaned against my shoulder, and for the first time in months, she felt like my little girl again instead of a stranger living in my house. How did you know? She asked. How did you know to come looking for us? Kayla called me. You'd asked her to call if you didn't check in by 10. Emma nodded. I figured if something went wrong, you'd know what to do. Even when I was angry at you, I knew you'd come if I needed you. Always, I said. No matter what happens between us, no matter how angry we get at each other, I will always come for you. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the Miami sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The city was waking up around us, early commuters heading to work, joggers starting their morning runs along the beach, boats beginning their daily journeys across the bay. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. When you and Mom got divorced, did you think it would change how much you love me? The question caught me off guard. What? No, Emma. Never. The divorce was between your mother and me. It had nothing to do with how much I love you. But you got so much more protective afterward. So much more worried about everything I did. I thought about that, trying to find the right words. I think I was scared that if I lost you too, I'd have nothing left that mattered. So I tried to control everything, to make sure nothing bad could happen to you. But that's not fair to you, and it's not realistic. I don't want you to stop caring about my safety, Emma said. I just want you to trust me more. To trust that you've taught me well enough that I can make good decisions, even when you're not there. You did make good decisions last night, I pointed out. You arranged for Kayla to call me. You helped keep Madison calm during the rescue. You listened to instructions and helped with the other kids. Emma, you were incredible out there. She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in weeks. I learned from the best. Your mother taught you well too. I wasn't talking about Mom, Emma said. I was talking about you. All those Coast Guard stories you tell, all the safety lessons you've drilled into me over the years, they saved my life last night. They saved all of us. As the morning light grew stronger, illuminating our living room and the bay beyond our windows, I realized that something had shifted between us. The rescue had given us back to each other, but more than that, it had shown both of us that love doesn't mean holding on so tight that you can't let go. Sometimes it means trusting that you've done your job well enough that the person you love can find their way home, even through the darkness. So, Emma said, stretching and finally taking a sip of her cold chocolate, what do you say we make some breakfast and you tell me more of those Coast Guard stories? The ones where everybody makes it home safe. I smiled, pulling her closer. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. Outside, Miami was fully awake now, the bay sparkling in the morning sun like a promise that today would be better than yesterday. And for the first time in months, I believed it.